A man was being tailgated by a stressed-out woman on a busy boulevard. Suddenly, the light turned yellow just in front of him. He did the right thing, stopping at the crosswalk, even though he could have beaten the red light by accelerating through the intersection. The tailgating woman was furious and honked her horn, screaming in frustration as she missed her chance to get through the intersection, dropping her cell phone and makeup. As she was still in mid-rant, she heard a tap on her window and looked up into the face of a very serious police officer. The officer ordered her to exit her car with her hands up. He took her to the police station where she was searched, fingerprinted, photographed, and placed in a holding cell. After a couple of hours, a policeman approached the cell and opened the door. She was escorted back to the booking desk where the arresting officer was waiting with her personal effects. He said, "I'm very sorry for this mistake. You see, I pulled up behind your car while you were blowing your horn, flipping off the guy in front of you, and cussing a blue streak at him. I noticed the What Would Jesus Do bumper sticker, the Choose Life license plate holder, the Follow Me to Sunday School bumper sticker, and the chrome-plated Christian fish emblem on the trunk. Naturally, I assumed you had stolen the car." A small startup company announces it will be holding an employee costume party to celebrate the end of its first fiscal year in business. The theme of the party is Past and Present, to celebrate the work that has been done while also looking forward to the years to come. To further expand on the theme, they encourage all employees to bring family members if they would like to, children included. They even announced they will be giving away a prize for the most creative costume. The day of the party arrives and everyone is in attendance, including the CEO of the company, Catherine. As she's mingling with employees, she comes across one employee with a particularly interesting costume. They are wearing a full cat outfit as well as makeup with wrinkles and gray hairs. "So what are you supposed to be?" asks the CEO. "I'm you," responds the employee. "I'm you in the future, old cat." The CEO laughs and thanks the employees for their creativity and work on the costume. The employee's young daughter then walks up to join their parent, also dressed as a cat, but without the wrinkles or gray hair. "Do you know what I'm dressed up as?" asks the girl. It immediately clicks as the CEO recognizes what the girl's costume is. "Why, you've got to be kidding me!" In King Solomon's court, 2 men and a woman stood before the king. "This woman is my wife," said the first man. "I married her 30 years ago." "No, she's my wife," said the second man. "I married her 30 years ago, but this man just stole her from me." Solomon then turned to his servant and said, "Bring me this woman's makeup box and a saw." After receiving these items, Solomon looked at the 2 men and said, "I shall cut the woman's makeup box in half, and then each one of you shall get half, and do whatever you wish with it." The first man shrugged and said, "Okay, fine with me." But the second man cried out, "No! Don't deprive her of her makeup box. I can't bear the thought. Let this other man have it. Then at least she'll get her makeup back eventually." After hearing this, Solomon said, "Give the woman to the first man, for she is his wife." Solomon's servant then said to him, "Remarkable! How did you know which man was telling the truth?" "Well, both claim to have been married to her for 30 years. Solomon replied. "So I knew that whichever man cared less about her appearance was the actual husband." A blonde girl goes to an appliance store. She spots the TV she's been saving up for, picks it up, and goes to the cashier. The cashier says, "Sorry ma'am, we don't serve blondes." Disgruntled, she goes back home and dyes her hair black. The next day she goes into the appliance store and picks out the same TV, and once again goes to pay. The cashier says, "I'm sorry ma'am, but told you yesterday, we don't serve blondes." Furious, she goes home and watches hundreds of SFX makeup tutorials on YouTube. She makes the perfect old man disguise and goes back the next day. The cashier welcomes her and says, "Hello sir, how can I help you today?" She replies, "I'd like to buy this TV please young man," in her best old man voice. The cashier replies, "I'm sorry, but we don't serve blondes." "Damn it, she screams as she rips off the disguise. How did you know? The cashier replies. Because that's a microwave. A large woman, wearing a sleeveless sundress, walked into a bar in Dublin. She raised her right arm, revealing a huge, hairy armpit, and, as she pointed to all the people sitting at the bar, she asked, "What man here will buy a lady a drink?" The bar went silent as patrons tried to ignore her. But down at the end of the bar, an owly-eyed drunk slammed his hand down on the counter and bellowed, "Give the ballerina a drink!" The bartender poured the drink, and the woman chugged it down. She turned to the patrons and again pointed around at all of them, revealing the same hairy armpit, and asked, "What man here will buy a lady a drink?" Once again, the same little drunk slapped his money down on the bar and said, "Give the ballerina another drink." The bartender approached the little drunk and said, "Tell me, Patty, it's your business if you want to buy the lady a drink, but why do you keep calling her the ballerina?" The drunk replied, "Any woman who can lift her leg that high has got to be a ballerina." Two old men were sitting in a restaurant having a cup of coffee when one of them looked at the other and asked, "Why are wedding dresses always white?" The other man thinks for a moment and says, "Well, you know, I think it means the bride's love is pure." The first old man does not seem convinced, so when another old friend sits down, the man poses the same question to him. "Say, do you know why wedding dresses are white?" "I'm not sure," the newcomer responds. "But back in the day, didn't all household appliances come in white?" One day, Einstein has to speak at an important science conference. On the way there, he tells his driver, who looks a bit like him, "I'm sick of all these conferences. I always say the same things over and over." The driver agrees. "You're right. As your driver, I attended all of them, and even though I don't know anything about science, I could give the conference in your place." "That's a great idea," says Einstein. "Let's switch places then." So they switch clothes, and as soon as they arrive, the driver dressed as Einstein goes on stage and starts giving the usual speech, while the real Einstein, dressed as the car driver, attends it. But in the crowd, there's one scientist who wants to impress everyone and thinks of a very difficult question to ask Einstein, hoping he won't be able to respond. So this guy stands up and interrupts the conference by posing his very difficult question. The whole room goes silent, holding their breath, waiting for the response. The driver looks at him and says, "Sir, your question is so easy to answer that I'm going to let my driver reply to it for me."